Welcome to the AI 2030 show, Leading the Future of AI, where we explore the cutting-edge innovations and visionary leaders shaping the future of AI. In each episode, we explore the latest AI research and real-world applications, featuring insights from industry leaders on responsible AI for good, AI for all, and we cover topics like AI privacy, fairness, governance, and sustainability. I'm your host, Brett Mowry. I run an AI governance consultancy, Enya Analytics, as well as serve as the head of advisory services for AI 2030. In that role, I lead our Responsible AI Pledge program, and I'm honored to be here today as your host. I'm also super excited about our guest speaker today. Preetish Kakkar is a leader in building the future for 3D creators with using 3D rendering, augmented and virtual reality, extended reality, and intelligent systems. With over 15 years of experience, he has worked for Microsoft and MathWorks and currently works as Adobe's senior computer graphics engineer. He has contributed significantly to the advancement of the cutting-edge technologies in computer graphics and AI. He is the author of the Modern Vulkan Cookbook and a recognized speaker at international conferences, including keynote speaker at the Vishwakan 2024. Please note that the ideas and insights shared by Preetish during this discussion are his own and do not represent the views or policies of his employer, Adobe. Preetish, welcome. It's great to have you here. I'd like to break the ice a bit with a quick question, if you don't mind. If your AI journey was a movie, what would it be?
Thanks, Brett. Thanks for inviting me on AI 2030. It's a pleasure to speak about it, speak about AI and how it changed the land of 3D graphics and 3D creators workflow. In terms of the journey in terms of the movie and the AI journey, it would start from way before I got into AR, VR, and creative workflows. It would be basically a blend between data visualization, various AI models and AI techniques that are used to train a lot of AI models to be able to produce realistic simulations, as well as using the AR and VR headsets and AR and VR technologies to create realistic worlds, realistic virtual worlds, and then some of these ideas are now being blended with creative tools that could now be used to produce, movies, be able to transform, older movies with, different experiences and be able to change the ending or change some parts of it, for example. So it's a blend between computer graphics, AI, AR, VR, and a lot of creative tools that are used by movie makers, game artists, and stuff like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, as you started that, I started to think about Tron in 2001, building all these visual worlds, but having your tools to make your own endings in them as well, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the pivotal moment that led you to your career in AI? How did you kind of jump into this space?
Sure. So I I was always working in the area of computer graphics and computer vision to a certain extent, but during my journey at MathWorks, we were doing a lot of AI model training, data visualization to figure out if the models are being trained a lot or not. This means I had to develop a lot of real-time data visualization to simulation tools, be able to simulate synthetic data that would be used to train a lot of computer vision models and stuff like that. So a lot of those kind of techniques were required where you had to leverage AI, but along with rendering techniques from computer graphics and to train either computer vision model or give certain kind of insights into various use cases. Like for example, you could be fine tuning your engine model that would be put in a vehicle eventually or would be shipped with a vehicle. To be able to train those, you need to be able to create simulations and be able to run AI to able to figure out what would happen in a certain context or a certain scenarios. And there could be, millions of scenarios you could think about, So during, I would say a lot of, AI and how it got blended with my computer graphics and traditional computer vision knowledge was during my time at MathWorks.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's I mean, interesting career space to have gone, started in computer graphics, I'm sure, and as the technology evolved, seeing what can happen with the simulations and then 3D, et cetera, et cetera. So, what's the most exciting or impactful project that you've worked on or maybe currently are working on, if you can share.
Sure. So if you have heard about Adobe recently released a beta version of Substance 3D Viewer, and I have implemented a lot of features in it. There is an AI where you can use AI to change background of the 3D objects, and you can change the textures of the 3D object. So there are a lot of features in those that particular software, and I've implemented few of those. Not, of course, not all of them. Wish all of them I would have implemented. Unfortunately, I can't really talk about a lot of details because it's an Adobe specific technology, and my I have a limited information that I can disclose.
Yeah.
But a lot of my projects were at the intersection of AI and how to use AI, with a lot of rendering, computer graphics workflows.
Yep. That's awesome. I had previously worked in creative marketing agencies. I wasn't the creative, but I imagine they're digging into the Adobe Substance 3D viewer and leveraging a lot of those tools. From the bit I could look at it and understand the use cases. I can see like all the power that will start to have. So that's exciting. So outside of work, let's kind of jump back. You wrote a book, Modern Vulcan Cookbook. Can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you for that to do that, and for if anyone might not know what Vulcan is, how that kind of relates to the world that we're talking about here with on AI?
Yeah, absolutely. With AI, as you all know, GPUs have become very important, right? Like that's why Nvidia stock has been going up and up. But GPU is the fundamental hardware piece that you need to train these AI models and be able to run these AI models at a real time kind of at a very good speed and those kind of things. The Vulkan is not an AI API, but it's a GPU API specifically targeted towards writing game engines or graphics engines, basically. And the Modern Vulkan Cookbook is a book which basically, explains a lot of, concepts that you can use, that you can build using Vulkan. Like if you want to build a game engine, if you want to build a rendering engine. So, for example, if you have a Unity and you are using a Unity game engine on Unreal, you have multiple engines in it. One of them, the things that you see on the screen when you are playing with Unity, is called a rendering engine. But the Unity does not come only with rendering engine. It has an audio engine. For example, you can put an audio and you can play, while the game is being played, you can play an audio with it. And it also has physics engine, like the collisions that you see between objects is done by physics engine. The Vulkan API is an API that lets you build the piece which is mostly on the graphic side, which is like the visualization and all those kind of things. So the book was aimed to teach a lot of other folks who are new to this domain or even who have some experience but haven't really used Vulkan. For example, there was an older API named OpenGL that was commonly used to do this rendering workflows, but that API was not really very close to GPUs. Now this API is very low level and very close to GPU, and using this API efficiently to be able to create, rendering engines is really difficult, and that's why me and one of my friends decided to write a book on it. Fortunately, we got reached by Pecht, which is a publisher, a well-known publisher in the tech space, and fortunately it happened. But yeah, we wanted to provide this intersection of this API, how it's evolving, how it's useful for computer graphics and building some of these, rendering engines, and then how these rendering engines could be useful for AI as well.
Great. No, that's really interesting. How the tools that are out there to essentially enable, in your case, you're talking again a gaming industry, those kind of things, but to be able to get, pass on, your thoughts in a great format in this book and get published. You can tell like solidifies all the work that you do, right? That you're like, you can, that it's, the stuff that you're building is the stuff of the future. Um, let's go. You mentioned earlier a little bit about simulations. I know we had talked previously some about like the realism of simulations. Can you, tell us a little bit more how that impacts the work that you're doing and maybe some ways, that leans even into like the idea of responsible AI, by leveraging simulations.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the work that I did in one of my previous, jobs is basically designing a software that can be used to train, let's say, drone delivery. So one of the things, for example, if you have heard about it, Starbucks is still trying with, doing drone delivery, your coffee directly shipped to your home and using drone to ship your coffee, basically. And it's a hard problem because if you can imagine, different environment, different cities would have different environments, would have different, different kind of wires, different kind of layout, different kind of trees. So you want to be able, and it's not a problem that can be solved using like traditional approaches, which is like a rule-based thing, like don't fly on this area, fly this area. It's not like an airplane flying at a certain level where or a
Yeah, yeah,
certain altitude where you don't have anything else, or not anything, but not much to worry about. With drone, you have a lot of things that it could bump into and crash. So what we want to do there was to be able to create these synthetic worlds that can be used to train these AI machine learning models, or rather deep learning models, so that your drone does not really need to do real-time training because real-time training on these expensive drones are really, really expensive. You need hours and hours of flying these drones, and then be able to training on those would just be not efficient, would not be cost friendly. Probably companies like Starbucks would not venture
yeah.
into something like that. So and it's not about we are always creating only the synthetic data. It's a fusion between real data. So you are taking 10% real data, you are letting one or two drones, crash and those kind of things. But then you are doing 90% of your data is coming through synthetic worlds that are done. And you wanna create these synthetic worlds in game engines, which to certain extent is easier, but you wanna create a realism. Like game engines are not traditionally designed to be accurate. It's only designed to, give you gaming workflows, which is like a more fun and all this. But here you want to be accurate. Like you want to have an accurate measurement of how far your drone is from a tree so that you can make those decisions. Your AI models have those knowledge. So all of this requires, you have to substantially modify a lot of, you have to custom design a lot of like sensor simulation. Like if you want to do LiDAR sensors, you want to have to create these LiDAR sensor simulations that can produce data that can then be trained on these, train these AI deep learning models, and you have to be writing these intelligent, rendering engines. That so partially, if you think about this, what is happening here is partially AI is also changing the rendering workflows and helping the rendering workflow, but then it's also creating this synthetic data that is also solving these real, workflows like a drone delivery and all.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I know drones obviously is a large topic. When you think about, I guess, kind of curious from your side in your what you see in this space. When you think of like Starbucks, obviously Amazon's another one, right?
Right.
They've been talking about drones for delivery, things like that. Do you see that in the next 5 years? Do you think that, like, with these simulations, et cetera, the problems will be solved, and this will become kind of at scale?
I think specific drone example might not be a perfect fit because the drone delivery and drone has a lot of aspects that are governed by, government. So it's a little bit of, challenging there. It's not only about getting the technology right, but also making sure that the understanding between the governance and the understanding between the, other folks who are like, approvals, the right approvals that are required,
Right.
because drones could create a lot of challenges in terms of privacy. So it's a I do see it happening ultimately. I just can't 5-10 years or 5 years or 3 years. It's a difficult time. Specifically for drone. It's a difficult thing to predict because it requires a little bit more cross collaboration between different entities. But if for example, there was another thing that I could speak about where let's say let's say you go to a show in New York and you wanna see this show from different angles. Now instead of you going to New York in a certain show, you could basically have this performance that is now recorded by in a volumetric way. Like what it means is it's not like a 2D screen. You could imagine a technology like AR or VR where you could be seeing this from a different angle. You could
Oh
just
yeah.
wear a glasses like the one I'm wearing, and then you could see the show sitting at your bedroom, and you will feel exactly as if you would be in a theater or a big with the so this technology is far more rapidly increasing because this is more about entertainment, which is a little bit more easier to get into hands of customers.
Yeah. No, thanks. Yeah. Yeah. It's all, really interesting. Yeah, the idea of, drones and delivery, that brings into the world of our discussions, right? The policies and everything like that, the regulations, which it sounds like a bit what you're saying is the
Exactly.
technology can do it, within a reasonable
Exactly.
error, right? There's gonna, you want, zero error in certain cases, but the policy and kind of cultural change, et cetera, will be,
Exactly.
the technology will be ahead of that.
Exactly.
But the other applications like the theater kind of view is will be pretty amazing technology.
Right.
Um, Kind of thinking a little bit more towards the future again here, if you don't mind. I think you and I had a discussion more of kind of the same mind that, and a little bit we're talking about like the technology AI is changing faster than we can anticipate. There's so much, and there will be the kind of limiters, from policy and regulation, and rightfully so. But can you talk a little bit about what else you might see kind of changing, kind of from a more global perspective, in the next kind of few years?
Yeah, I think so I'm a senior computer graphics engineer. I do a lot of development basically. So I see a lot of developer productivity tools that is changing quite a bit. So for example, if you have heard about Git Copilot or Cursor or Devin, these are basically tools that can write a lot of your code, like a lot of code, a lot of backend, a lot of front end, a lot of computer graphics, a lot of computer vision. Not everything yet, but still a lot of what I call is a bureaucratic code, which is basically something you have to kind of write because you want to build this infrastructure. There are important parts to implement, but to implement those important parts, you need to build at least some infrastructure. And a lot of these tools are even now in today's world are able to solve this. And so I do believe it has already made significant inroads into specifically developer productivity, and it will continue to do that. I do expect some kind of novel research, novel algorithms would still need human inputs and human knowledge, but I do expect that a lot of human knowledge and new human inputs would be required where you need to go deep in a certain thing and not broad. So a lot of broad, high level overviews, high level things would be taken over by some of these tools. And specifically, if you have heard about OpenAI's O3, it was able to beat even there is this website called Code. I forget the name exactly, but it's a competitive programming website, and it was able to achieve a very high rank in that. And again, a lot of these things would change how developer works. In terms of 3D gaming, computer graphics, computer vision, we are seeing the techniques like NVIDIA's deep learning, which is like, let's say you want to render something, render a scene, and you want to render it at a 1K resolution instead of 4K because you don't have enough compute. But with these kind of deep learning techniques, it can take this 1K resolution rendered thing and convert it into a 4K. And you will not be able to tell a difference between whether it was originally rendered at 1K and converted or it was originally rendered at 4K resolution. So some of these things are coming into the picture. I would expect that a lot of 3D graphics will change also with a lot of like if you have seen some of these workflows where you have text to image like a DALI for example or Stable Diffusion, you can give a text that would produce image. The 3D world is also changing in that way. We have text or images and you can produce 3D content. Right now, it's not exactly at the level that you would expect 3D artists to produce, but it's getting there. I would expect, within a considerable, let's say, next couple of years, I would say considerable inroads into that workflow. And then artists could be able to like a type a text, give you images of a real object taken from their, home or somewhere out, and then be able to construct and then be able to modify that in real time, be able to make those changes, and that would really make this workflow very fast.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah, as you spoke to that, there was, I think, components in there that you're talking about OpenAI's tool that, essentially like can, program automatically in an automated form, at an amazing level, at the moment. Are you seeing, and this is kind of a follow-up to that thought of like, are you seeing any kind of oversight around this, or how does that work when computers are programming and creating code and potentially are they implementing it, that there needs to be some level of oversight on that, like the human at the helm kind of idea. Is that out there today in places?
Yeah, I mean, so these tools are not programming on their own yet. You still have to give them some text prompt. You still have to give them some ideas. You still have to describe your workflow. And it's not like I haven't really seen tools as of now that can take, let's say, a big code base and be able to fix tricky bugs in it, for example.
Okay.
So there is a lot of human, intervention that is required today, but that does not mean it would be required in, let's say, another 3, 4 years. The tools would evolve. I would say there would be human, right now, the way I see this world is you have these tools and humans are the ones that are driving it. So what I call this is a workflow where tools are in the loop and humans are the driving force behind it. In future, in maybe 5 years or maybe less, we would see these tools driving the workflows and human in the loop. So humans would still be there, but these tools would be doing a lot of work where they would come back to you when they are not able to solve a problem instead of you going and asking them to do a certain thing. So you would describe a very high level workflow. They will try to create something, come back to you. So it would be like talking to an intelligent person instead of, just doing like just telling someone to do stuff and yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds a little bit like, I have a new analyst or a new programmer on my team. I have to tell them a lot what to do. Then they learn what to do, and then they come to you and they check in to make sure that it's doing right, or or if they run into problems, but they start to learn. So, no,
Exactly.
thanks. That helps me understand that a lot. That's as we talk about responsible AI, something that is obviously a big topic there. How does that work? So I'm going to remember the tools in the loop and the human in the loop kind of
Yeah.
conversion there. I like it. Yeah, I know you have a view on. I think your term was democratization of animated films. I'm curious about this, and this you mentioned a little bit in your this last part about artists,
Right.
and there's these creators and things like that um, you know have been creating for a while. So it's a similar question, I guess, to what you just talked about of the tools and the humans in the loop, but from the creative side, right? So can you just tell me more, or I guess the audience here, sorry, more about this democratization of animated films and what you see in the future there?
Absolutely. So if you go like 20 years back, GPUs were like there were basically not a lot of GPUs companies. NVIDIA happens to be first one or something along those lines that actually got popular. But they don't. A lot of these animated movie company like Pixar, for example, were using CPUs mostly to create these animation movies, and it means you had to spend a lot of money to create like render each frame of the movie that you are seeing, and but that is changing with AI, and you needed to hire a lot of 3D artists to be able to create. Let's say if you have this movie, for example, um, like Lords of Rings, for example, right? You have a lot of animation characters in it. There is a realism, but there is a background that's not. To create all those effects, you needed a lot of 3D tools and 3D artists to be able to use these tools, and that's how it has been going for, let's say, last 20 years or so. More or like the tools have been refined, but the way I see is we will see a lot of democratization of animated movies because a lot of AI is helping these tools become simpler. You don't To get into these 3D workflows, you don't need a lot of experience. You need it, at least the way I see it. In future, you will not need a lot of experience. For example, if you want to today become a video editor or an image editor, you have tools that can easily like you don't need a specific 5-year degree to learn a lot of tools. You can literally spend like few months and be good in it, and that's what's going to happen to these 3D tools as well. So a lot of young people, a lot of creative people, a lot of people who are thinking, a lot of artists, a lot of people who have creative mindset, they will be able to describe and be able to create scenes and then be able to collaborate with some of the people who have really good skills in these 3D tools also. but those people would also be using a lot of these 3D workflows using AI. And the way I would see is in another 5, maybe 10 years, difficult to predict again AI, the way AI evolves. But I would definitely see democratization of these animated movie, which what it means is you should be able to see these, let's say, instead of having a 2 hours movie, we will see 30, 40 minutes movies. That would be as good quality as, let's say, a Pixar movie today, or a Disney movie today. And this would be produced by not like a big huge teams, and would not need that huge budget. It would be like 5 or 10 people, mostly, let's say, few years of experience, and they would be able to produce. The point I'm trying to make here is these AI tools will make the process so streamlined that all you need is basically a lot of creative, thoughts, basically, to be able to produce, well watched movie, let's say that
Yeah,
way.
yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I haven't watched a Pixar movie in a little bit, but we have a 2-year-old, so we'll be watching them soon. But I
Right.
think of the list of the credits about all the people working on it, from my memory, and if that, something of that quality gets done by 5 or 10 people or something like that, it's a changing world. So I'll make sure, if it doesn't take a college degree, for sure to get my daughter looking at those tools sooner than later.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
uh, so yeah, I'm kind of fascinated by this, kind of thought of like the creators world. I follow some of the trends on, future careers and that kind of stuff as well. Um, so from that standpoint, maybe using this, it doesn't have to be limited to the democratization of animated films, but as you look at the future, in the space you're in, what kind of AI responsibility efforts do you kind of see, as critical, and where do you see kind of the industry currently in doing those versus building the AI?
I I would say right now a lot of these projects and a lot of this, people who came from this background, it seems to be coming from a lot of research worlds, and they are trying to, create a lot of research models, AI models, that could create the shape either creators or other even parts of, like, not only creators, right? AI is being used for simulation, like I said, even in IoT world and different other worlds as well, cybersecurity as well. So I would say, but as we are developing AI, we need to be very careful about how it impacts the society, what kind of jobs are being created through it, what kind of jobs are being taken away by it, and we need to be careful about how do we help folks upskill to the newer tools. We need to be empathetic towards our fellow coworkers. We should be empathetic towards the society as a whole to be able to ensure that these tools and these AI workflows are helping humans do better. For example, as a developer, I don't want to be spending too much time trying to, let's say, create infrastructure when I can actually create super cool stuff on top of that. Similarly, a lot of these, 3D creators don't want to be able to learn all those, keys in the tool when they can actually do it faster. But at the same time, we want to be careful about how to upscale them, how to be ethical about it, how to be transparent about providing these details. And we want to be, making sure that these AI systems are not biased by, exactly our biases. Like as a humans, we tend to have biases. So we want to be able to train these AI models on, let's say, a wide variety of the data. And even if it means slowing down some of these, at least that's my personal opinion, even if it means slowing down some of these, launching of these AI models so that these are not having the same biases that a particular society or a particular industry could have. Um, I would also say that, having transparency, like I said before, and accountability, and making sure that it's ethical and it's being, trusted, and it's verified. For example, a lot of I would see companies should be able to put things like, whether this was generated through AI or not, right? Like that would help me understand whether this particular video is AI generated content or a real content. So those kind of things companies could do. Collaboration is a very important part to all of this. There needs to be collaboration between, like I said, a lot of this is still a research. A lot of research is going into this area. Even if there is, OpenAI kind of made it a little bit easier to see how AI is going to be changing the world, but the research has been going before even 2012. For example, like AlexNet, which was the first deep learning model, it came around in 2012 basically. So a lot of this needs to be, collaboration between governments, academia, industry, to be able to establish common goals that eventually, helps humankind in its whole, instead of trying to having AI take over everything.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, we won't go into whether we're fatalists or not in this, but it's encouraging to me, that you as a leader in the space, and someone who's actually building these is very familiar with all the broader implications of this, the potential implications, right? Of the societal side of things that, and understand that need to incorporate those as you are building these, because I don't come from your background, but a minor version of it where I could definitely see like the biases, etc. And as we're creating, we're all inherently biased. That's in the data, but getting that kind of collaboration, that diversity to understand, not just from your view, from others, how this may or may not be biased in that, for that example, right? Is critical, because as we automate things, you were talking about automating before, right? Like if you're automating on something that's already biased, it's just going to be, probably more biased, right? So, so all that's great. So I think we have a few minutes left. I was going to try to kind of close us out on, we're looking to a new year, 2025. Do you have any resolutions for, one or two resolutions for the year that we think all should kind of follow as we head into this new year?
Yeah, I would say, since we are in an AI 2030 talk, I think we should aim for, making sure that our AI models are created transparently, and there is, the right data is being trained. It's a diverse set of data. We should aim that, models as they are being released are also, providing that kind of capabilities where it's not biased. We are measuring that by saying if we are seeing any of those. So I would say one resolution would be definitely making sure, the AI models are transparent and there is no bias in it, or we have some measurement system to figure out what biases we are seeing.
Awesome. Thanks, Pratish. Yeah, I'll add one of my own, which is similar to this. The way I think of AI, it's great again to hear from your perspective on that commitment to responsibility. My resolution is, that I think we also have, especially for kind of leaders in companies, is to make sure that comes top down as well. Like from, one of the things we do with AI 2030 is, looking from the board level down, making a responsible AI commitment. So that commitment to all the foundational pieces that you need to deliver on this, because the technology is, as we've seen, is here. There's so many applications, it's so broad, that getting those controls in place early, and having that commitment to that is critical. The businesses are going to change, jobs are going to change, and we can't get caught from behind. So that we at AI 2030, we look towards 2030 to have this all kind of in place. So 2025 is going to be a big year to get those commitments, and as everything's kind of going a bit, again, as you said, a lot's in research, but it's coming. So as it kind of moves, having those pieces in places is critical. So well, thank you, Pratish, for sharing your insights and imagination with us today. It's just amazing work that you do. It's great to hear some of the behind the scenes of how I go see a Pixar movie and think of a future where our kids are just without your training in the coding, etc. just building these, with a group of friends, probably in the garage,
Yeah.
in the garage or something as
Yeah.
teenagers. But very cool. So thank you again. It's been great kind of talking to you, and looking forward to kind of continuing our collaborations as we move forward. To our listeners, thank you for listening in. Remember, the future of AI is being shaped right now by incredible leaders like Pratish. And thank you for joining us in and celebrating the responsible AI future with us. We appreciate your time and your interest. And until next time, keep innovating, keep investing, and keep expanding your AI horizons. Happy New Year. Have a great 2025.